Welcome back to another WhoScored.com Premier League preview. The international break is over and we're not having another one until March next year. So that is music to my ears. And we are back with a bang as Manchester City host Ben McAleer's Tottenham. Are you as excited as me or are you nervous?
No, I'm not. Well, I'm never excited. I mean, Tottenham always have a knack of, I say always have a knack. Recently, they've had a knack of turning up to the Etihad and actually getting something. Bar that 4-2 defeat. The two of the last three visits, they've got a result. Last year was that really entertaining 3-3 draw. And, we seem to be able to up the ante when we go to the Etihad. But, we'll get onto it for the reasons why I'm not confident at all.
There was, I'm sure, not so long ago, a stat, albeit it was at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, but it was like City hadn't scored there for ages. I'm assuming that's well over now.
Yeah, it was in the FA Cup earlier in the year. I think Ake was the first player to ever scored. Was the first ever Man City player to have scored at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I think they'd had 101 shots and hadn't scored, or they'd had 100 and he scored the 101st shot by a City player.
I mean, that's a pretty wild stat. But yeah, as I said, no longer relevant and also not relevant for this fixture. I have another good stat, which is more relevant. Tottenham are actually, it's joint, but they are Pep's least favourite team to face in his career. And I'm basing that on the amount of defeats. Spurs have beaten a Pep side 8 times in his career, which is the same as Liverpool, Man United and Chelsea, all with 8. But maybe he makes it 9 this weekend. One thing that will be making Pep very happy is the return of Kevin De Bruyne. Now, this is a very silly question because everyone knows the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How important is that for Man City?
It's massive. City just haven't looked as, I want to say, fluid going forward. Obviously, they do have the players that can calm apart defences, but De Bruyne is just next level creator. He's top for big chances created in 2024. And without him, they just do not look as effective in the final third. I think Haaland will benefit massively from him being back. I know he's gone, I wouldn't say a bit of a barren run, but he just hasn't looked anywhere near as effective, particularly since that Arsenal draw. And having him back just really increases their chances of getting a result they so desperately need. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, it feels like forever that he's been, arguably the best player in the Premier League for seasons, in my opinion. Definitely up there. So having a player like that back, I mean, it can only be a positive thing. And as you say, he's critical to everything Man City do, but particularly going forward. Another change this week, which there was question marks around, I think. I mean, maybe I missed it, but Pep Guardiola has extended or signed a new contract with Manchester City, which, I was slightly surprised by because I thought it was all sort of coming, not to an end, but that it might be a longer process than it has. What do you make of the new deal? Do you think he's going to see it out? I mean, there's nothing to suggest really that he won't, but maybe you'll have an opinion on that. How many more titles is he going to win with Man City?
It's interesting because I thought when I'm going to butcher his name, Begiristain, I probably have got that wrong. When it was confirmed that he was leaving, I thought, it brings a natural end to Pep's time there. Then when Viana took over as sporting director, we'll do from the end of start of next season. You thought, it seems pretty logical that Amorim might go there. And then obviously he's gone to Man United. And you kind of wonder, has City missing out on Amorim thought, maybe we need to tie Pep down to a new deal? And it's interesting in that he obviously doesn't like to spend long periods of time at teams. He feels like when he's ready to end, he just ends it on his terms. But he's had a system now set up to suit him, so there's no reason for him to leave. Obviously, the season has proven a lot tougher than recent seasons, but there's a challenge for Pep to get City back on top. Whether they do it this season, I don't know. Liverpool obviously made an absolutely superb start to the season. Arsenal have faltered in recent weeks, but it just feels like everything's kind of tailor-made for Pep. So it's not really a surprise that he stayed there, but in turn, given the fact that he's often left teams on his own terms and not really stayed as long as he has at Man City, it's a bit of a surprise from that regard.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I was as I said, slightly surprised. But I don't know whether the guys at the top at City have looked at maybe Liverpool and them replacing Klopp. That went well. But then you also have the Man United side of things where, well, we haven't seen Amorim yet, but they've had issues with Ten Hag, particularly in the summer where they were going to sack him, but couldn't really find anyone better or suitable. So I guess being in the market for a manager is tough. It's very tough.
Well, especially in this kind of climate, there's not really many out there that could really succeed Pep. You would have thought Amorim would be the perfect choice, but then that's not going to happen. And maybe Xavi in a couple of years' time if he takes a bit of time out. Xabi Alonso as well, but Xavi's out of the game. He won't be out of the game for long. Xabi Alonso will eventually leave by Leverkusen, you feel, possibly to Real Madrid. But in terms of that stylistic manager, there's few out there at the moment that could really replicate what Guardiola does.
Yeah, absolutely. And no matter who they get in next, whether it's big names, new guys, the bar is set incredibly high. So I don't envy whoever ends up managing Manchester City after Pep Guardiola, but that's not my problem. Bentancur, that's a huge loss for your Tottenham. What do you think that will mean, him being out?
He deserves the ban. There's no two ways about it. Tottenham appealing it, the length of the ban, in my opinion, is silly. You take it and you accept it, and you accept that Bentancur, what he has done is wrong, which it is. It doesn't matter what's happened behind the scenes, whether Son has accepted an apology or whatever. Bentancur shouldn't have said what he said. And Tottenham appealing it isn't a good look. There was a period where that midfield looked pretty set with Maddison and Kulusevski, with Bentancur holding, but I don't know what's happened behind the scenes with Maddison and Ange. Maddison just hasn't been in the starting 11 the last couple of games. That's forced a change in midfield with Sarr coming in. He's done well. Bentancur obviously scored the consolation goal against Ipswich, but he's not a natural number 6. I think Basuma is better suited for that role anyway. So, Basuma can stay fit if he can find that form that he showed in the early weeks of last season before that silly yellow at Luton in the 1-0 away at Kenilworth Road. Then Tottenham needn't be worried. They've got a solid, energetic midfield there of Sarr, Basuma and Kulusevski. So it's not a massive blow, but, these things can change quickly. Basuma could pick up an injury, could get sent off on Saturday and be out for 3 games. And then suddenly Tottenham are back in a really tight spot. But, what Bentancur did was silly, and the fact that he's suspended for 7 games is deserved. And that's, that'll be the end of that, really.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's not good from Bentancur, and as you say, it's very deserved. It's actually quite wild looking at the match preview on WhoScored.com for this game. When you scroll down to the missing players for both teams, you'd have, and this is me glancing quickly, I reckon you could make a strong Premier League 11 there that would potentially challenge for the title. I won't reel them off, but obviously there's big ones for Man City. Rodri remains out. But huge ones for Tottenham, not only Bentancur being out suspended, but Mickey van der Ven is out. Romero is doubtful. What does that mean for Spurs' back line? Because looking at the predicted 11, we've got Dragusin and Davies starting centre-back, which to me, I'm not a Spurs fan, but if I was, I'd probably be a little bit worried about that.
Yeah, you've got the battle of the man buns between Haaland and Dragusin there. It's not an ideal situation to be in. Losing Van der Ven is a much bigger blow than losing Romero, just because Tottenham play that high line and they need Van der Ven's pace and recovery speed to make up the yards when teams do get in behind. Seeing Haaland up against Ben Davies and Dragusin doesn't fill any Tottenham fan with confidence. But then Tottenham have gone there before with weaker sides. They've had Emerson Royal at centre-back before, and they've miraculously come away with the result. But you've got De Bruyne back, and you've got Haaland who will be eager to get back into real goal scoring form. It doesn't bode well for Tottenham, in my opinion.
No, it doesn't. As a neutral, I'm kind of excited for that Haaland versus Davies /Dragusin battle, because it could be very interesting. And like if they can keep him out, like fair play. I'll hold my hands up. But I
Well,
think
Dragusin as
Haaland is.
well. Dragusin as well hasn't looked particularly solid. He committed an error against Galatasaray, similar against Karabag, and considering the clamour for him back in January to sign him in between Tottenham and Bayern Munich, you think in the second half of last season when he came in, he did perform well, but again, you're wondering he doesn't suit that Ange style of play, so it could be an interesting battle between Haaland and Dragusin.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. That's the chat done. Let's talk score predictions and bet builders. First up, what do you think the score will be here?
I know Tottenham have a knack for springing upsets against the big six, but I can't see anything beyond a City win, so I think City are going to win 3-1.
Yeah, that's a solid prediction. Not to give anything away before my bet builders, but I do think Tottenham score here. City have not been quite as astute at the back as maybe we're used to from previous seasons, and I think Tottenham can exploit that, and then we'll get on the score sheet here. But I do think City edge it. I almost think City can't really afford to lose this game with the form that they've been in, because Liverpool obviously play Southampton, which you'd imagine, with no disrespect to Southampton, Liverpool get an easy win there. If City lose here, they are well off the pace. And yeah, Pep Guardiola will not be very happy with that. So I think it's not a must win. That's a ridiculous thing to say, but it's probably not too far off. I'm going to go for 2-1 to Manchester City. I don't think they'll have it all their own way, but Haaland up against the makeshift back line, I think he scores, I think Spurs score, and I do think City edge it. So 2-1 Manchester City. Let's move on to the bet builders then. As ever, this is where we both present you guys with a bet builder that we've predicted and placed for Man City versus Tottenham using the WhoScored.com bet builder comparison tool. If one, you're not bored of us saying it, and two, you haven't used it yet, then I don't know what you're waiting for. If you're a bet builder lover, you have to go and use this tool, because it really does make sure that you get the best price for your bet builder. It's super easy to use. Don't just believe me, go and have a play with it. And I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Before we start, do please remember to gamble responsibly if you are placing bet builders or following anything that we say, betting wise, bet within your means and all that good stuff. It's also safe for gambling week. So if you do want more information on how to gamble responsibly and safer, it's all over our socials at the moment. So do go and check them out. And as I say, be safe, be responsible. Now, Ben, let's have your bet builder.
Yeah, I've gone for a nice 36.66 to 1 bet builder in this long shot. That's best price with Paddy Power. I've gone for Kulusevski to score anytime. He likes playing at the Etihad. He scored in his last 3 trips there, so much so that Tottenham have renamed it the Decky-Had when he goes there. So Kulusevski to score is the first part of my bet builder. Kulusevski to also be carded. He's been carded 3 times this season, but in both of his last 2 away matches. And finally, Haaland to score up against that makeshift back line, and he scored in 4 of his 5 home league matches. So Kulusevski to score, Haaland to score, and Kulusevski to be carded is a best price of 36.66 to 1 at the time of recording, and that's with Paddy Power.
Very nice. That sounds quite chunky for that, particularly with the stats there that you've taken fresh off of WhoScored.com. You've predicted 2 scorers. I've predicted over 2.5 goals. So that bodes quite nicely. Hopefully we can both get our way there. I'm going over 2.5. I think when you read Manchester City versus Tottenham, the first thing that springs to my mind is goals, goals, goals. We've already spoken at length about Haaland coming up against that Spurs back line. I think he'll have some joy. I've already spoken as well about Tottenham getting on the score sheet. I do think both teams score, so much so that I think over 2.5 goals is quite a safe bet here, and a nice foundation for my bet builder. My anytime scorer, though, is Dominic Solanke. I'm backing Solanke. He scored 3 goals in his last 3 games for Tottenham and 4 this season. In this fixture, only Haaland has scored more goals, albeit I think he scored 3 times the amount of goals as Solanke, but that doesn't really come as much of a surprise. I just think the value with Solanke is strong, and it obviously makes this bet builder a little bit bigger than it would be if I had gone for Erling Haaland. But the beauty of the Bet Builder tool is if you completely disagree with Solanke, you can play around, have anyone else you want in there and see what that does to the price. And finally, couldn't leave Haaland out. I've gone for Erling Haaland over 3.5 shots. That's shots, not shots on target. So any attempt he has from anywhere, I was going to say on the pitch, but probably not if he's in his own half, but will count. He's averaging 5 shots per game, which is lots and lots and lots. And if he does his average performance with 5 shots, this will comfortably come in. You can tone that down to 1.5, 2.5. You can turn it up if you want 4.5. The stats are there to back up over 4.5, but that was a little bit punchy for me. So I've settled with 3.5. Not quite as long as yours, Ben, but mine, that pays 6-1. And that's best price with Bet365. Other operators have that priced at just 4-1. So you can immediately see there is a bit of value by using the tool, because if this does win, you really don't want to be on at 4-1 when there was 6-1 readily available. All you needed to do was part with 4 seconds of your life to find that added value. Right, that brings it to a close. I hope it's not a painful weekend for you, Ben, but I would like to see lots of goals here. Thanks very much for watching, everyone. Please do gamble responsibly and check out WhoScored.com for all of your football stats that can give you all of the knowledge you need to back some winning bet builders. We will see you soon. Enjoy, guys.